He made the catch that sealed his spot in Bay Area sports history. Tonight, the flags at Levi Stadium are at half-staff in honor of 49ers legend Dwight Clark. Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Cook.
I'm Alan Martin in for Ken Bastida. This digital billboard at the Santa Clara Stadium displayed a message in Clark's honor tonight, including his jersey number 87. Clark died today after a battle with ALS. KPIX5's Joe Vazquez is here with a look at Clark's life and legacy. Joe?
What a life. What a catch. It was a grand life. Dwight Clark inspired many people, fans and athletes. The San Francisco Giants held a moment of silence for Clark tonight before taking on the Diamondbacks at AT&T Park, honoring a Bay Area sports legend.
Looking, throwing in the end zone. Caught it!
January 1982, 58 seconds left in the game. Joe Montana's pass was impossibly high for any mere mortal, but number 87 didn't believe in impossible. Dwight Clark stretched high in the air and brought it down. They called it the catch, the play that defeated the dreaded Cowboys and set in motion the momentum that carried the 49ers to their first Super Bowl win. Dwight Clark was handsome, brash, wore a fur coat to the Super Bowl parade, but never took himself too seriously. Teammate Ronnie Lott last year.
And one of the great things that I love about Dwight is that he might not be the fastest guy. He might not be the strongest guy. He might not be the guy that can jump the highest. But I never saw him quit.
Clark played 9 seasons with the Niners, won 2 Super Bowl rings. After retiring as a player, he worked in the front office for the 49ers and later the Cleveland Browns. Last year, after he announced he had been diagnosed with ALS, his football family rallied to be by his side at Levi Stadium for Dwight Clark Day.
I said, I just want to see my teammates. And the 49ers heard that and flew all these players in so I could see them one more time.
At the 49ers Museum, Dwight Clark lives on, soaring above all the other monuments, his impossible catch frozen in time.
Dwight Clark, dead at 61. He's survived by his wife and 3 children. Joe Vazquez, KPIX5.
Dwight Clark's wife, Kelly, broke the news on Twitter saying, I'm heartbroken to tell you that today I lost my best friend and husband. He passed away peacefully, surrounded by many of the people he loved most. And this tonight from former teammate Joe Montana. We're grateful for the decades of love and friendship we shared.
Another former 49er, Dan Bunz, won 2 Super Bowls with Clark. He got emotional tonight remembering his teammate and friend.
You know it's coming, but you don't want to believe it.
The 49ers had this to say tonight, quote, the strength, perseverance, and grace with which he battled ALS will long serve as an inspiration to so many. Dwight will always carry a special place in our hearts.
When he announced that he had ALS, Clark said that he didn't know for sure if football caused it, but he certainly suspected it did. KPIX5's Kristen Ayers has that part of the story tonight.
Good girl. The video, posted on Twitter 3 months ago, showed former 49ers great Dwight Clark in a light many had not seen, wheelchair-bound and battling ALS, enjoying a quiet moment with his horse. They have a way to make you forget your problems, he wrote. That Clark, a far cry from the man who made the famous catch. And who in 2016 showed KPIX5's Paul Diano a perfect throw. Clark went public about his ALS diagnosis in March of last year.
I'm grateful to Dwight Clark to be coming public with his disease in the beginning. I think that dramatically raised awareness.
Dr. Catherine Lohman-Hurth is the director of the ALS Center at UCSF. She says Clark fit the profile of an ALS patient. They are often male, about 56 years old, and healthy, and oftentimes they are pro football players.
NFL football players are 4 times more likely to develop ALS, and so whether that's because of head trauma or some other environmental factor, we don't know.
Even though doctors are still trying to find out what causes ALS, there is hope on the horizon for new treatments.
I think stem cells are very exciting because there's the potential to help implanting stem cells to be able to create a healthier environment so that the nerve cells don't die.
The medication Radicava was approved to help slow the disease's progression. Clark's health deteriorated just a year after his announcement. Dr. Lohman Hertz says finding a cause could make a difference, not only for ALS patients.
There are a lot of links between ALS and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. They're all degenerative diseases, and I think if we can unlock the mystery to one of these diseases, hopefully we'll have a solution for all of them.
Kristen Ayers, KPIX 5.
Dennis O'Donnell will have much more on Dwight Clark coming up.
Time now for Game On. The tribute's just pouring in for Dwight Clark. It's pretty wonderful.
Indeed. Eddie DeBartolo moved Dwight Clark to a ranch in Montana. Eddie's place was about 15 miles away. And a couple of months ago, Eddie flew all in the ex-49ers to see Dwight Clark. He knew the time was running low. You know, there's an old saying, wealth is not measured in money, but rather the friends you make along the road of life. Dwight Clark died today, a very rich man. Joe Montana saw Clark for the final time last week with another former 49er quarterback, Steve Bono. Montana and Clark were drafted by the 49ers in 1979, which was also Bill Walsh's first year as head coach. Walsh discovered Clark when he came to Clemson University to scout Clark's teammate, quarterback Steve Fuller.
He said, you were a wide receiver, weren't you? And I told him I was, and he said, would you mind coming and running some routes? I don't have anybody to run routes for me while Steve throws. And so I did, and just had one of those really fortunate days where I caught everything.
And of course, less than 3 years later, Clark made the catch and became one of the most famous athletes in Bay Area history. That Fuller story, you know, Walsh went to look at Fuller, who was a first-round pick. He was not impressed with Fuller. And so the quarterback he took that year was Joe Montana in the 3rd round, and he took Dwight Clark in the 10th round.
It's such a great message these two athletes had that, you know, you don't always have to be the first pick. Sometimes it is you peak later, and I just think that's so inspiring. A lot of people think, oh, you got to be the first guy. You got to be. No, you can. These guys worked hard.
Joe later said that Dwight never unpacked his bags at training camp that year because he thought he was going to get cut.
Amazing.
Made one of the biggest catches in team history, the biggest catch.